Andriana Mendez and Art Lotti. Oh my God, I'm so thankful that you both made time for me because I know how ridiculously busy humans you actually are. In fact, we had a trade show event that was the second time that we've done something like this with Central County Marketing Group this morning. And Art, you were in the room, and it looked like you got a lot out of it. We just were talking about that briefly off camera. Was it a good event for you?
Yeah, it was a good turnout like always. And there was a lot of communication between new real estate agents and other agents as well as affiliates that want to know more about our business that didn't know before. It was a good turnout. Seemed like everyone got use from it and
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. So with that in mind, so that everybody who's listening and watching understands, I'm going to just real quick give your bio, and then we can jump in and kind of bounce around a little bit, learn more about you as humans, and then also about the business. So Andriana and her husband Art are the owners of Custom Moving and Hauling. Their focus is to support older adults who are preparing to downsize and families who are putting their house on the real estate market. They help relieve the stress of these complex projects by providing experienced packing, sorting, floor planning, short-term storage, hauling, and moving services with care. Having assisted hundreds of San Francisco Bay Area families over the years, their mission has always been to deliver a custom and tailored solution provided by the reliable in-house team that they help, or that they manage rather. So you guys are busy. And that's the thing that I see whenever I see you. You seem to be going from A to B to C, and I love that the team mentality is fully in play, because if I don't see Andriana, I see Art, and if I don't see Art, I see Andriana. So talk to me a little bit about the divide and conquer approach that you all take.
Yeah, I appreciate again, Chris, for having us be here today and talk about just a little bit about our business and about us. So yeah, our business is very busy. We're thankful for that. We're thankful for all the relationships that we've built over the years of people who trust us to help their clients, because we always look at ourselves as an extension of what you do, and of that full service aspect that realtors are providing and affiliates are providing to people on the market who are going through like transitions like downsizing. And so, yes, it's been busy for us. I do a lot of the events like what you talk about. We kind of both split our time to see where we can go and, just network with partners who are kind of in the same space, who are helping folks go through these life transitions. Sometimes I might be in one city or I'll be in another. And so, like I said, we just try to kind of just always be there, just answering questions where we need to and growing our network so that when we're working with someone and we have someone who has a challenge that it's not something that we can help directly with, we have someone that's trusted to refer them to. And so, and also with our business is nice because it's not always seasonal, or it's not always directly related to the market, especially when dealing with older folks who might be moving because of, their children move out of the area, or if they're dealing with a health crisis. That those kind of things happen all year round at any time. Yeah.
But as for dividing and conquering, we have our consistent schedule that we.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, I noticed that, Art. Like, you guys are. I'm looking at the calendar now, and like my head wants to explode.
Yeah, but when she is busy doing events or educational seminars, that's where you see me, the substitute sometimes for the Andriana at some of the meetings. So
first of all, there's no substitute for Andriana, number one. Number two, you're a funny guy. Like, every time I see you, you make me laugh.
Well, because I don't want to cry. I like to laugh all the time. Disguises my insecurities.
Okay, fair enough. I have some of those too, so we share that in common. Plus, what you do can be pretty heavy too, right? So like having a light touch and keeping it, like Andriana, you've always impressed me as being a very empathetic, very caring person. And I don't want to say that Art is not, but because of Art's humor, I would say that you make a nice pairing.
Yeah, I mean, she's always professional and serious the high majority of the time, good listener, very empathetic. me a more lighthearted, joke around. But when we're on the job, I definitely notice when to tailor back because especially dealing with moving, very stressful situation. I try to keep it light. We try to stay quiet on the job, and very professional. So on the job is a little bit different. All my guys are very patient, very aware, very careful with all the furniture, boxes and stuff like that. So a little bit different on the job.
You're being entrusted in some instances in handling family heirlooms,
absolutely.
Expensive electronics, expensive furniture, or maybe it just maybe something that's really near and dear and irreplaceable to a human being.
Oh, absolutely. And you never know. So we always treat everything with care on the job, expecting that. And especially if someone happens to pass away or downsizing into a senior community, it's very stressful, very new to them. They've been in their house for 30, 40, 50 years. It's very emotional. So we tend to stay a little more quiet on the job than.
I bet. So how did you all get started in this business?
Luck. Well, when I was young, I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be a police officer, a football player, or a mover. I was between all of them.
And it was like kind of right between football player and mover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just it's a very long story, but kind of fell into it. Hauling, and then we started moving. I don't know. Good question.
How many are you at this point?
6 plus me.
Okay.
Equals 6 plus 1 is 7. So sometimes,
don't forget her.
Yeah. On the job, sorry. There's 7 of us total. Yeah. 8 of us. My daughter works for us a little bit and does a lot of the billing estimates, contracts, stuff like that.
Got it.
But on the job, we have 6 plus, if need be, on certain jobs or where it warrants or guys are out. I'm on the job also.
Got it. So you are still in the field on the regular then? Yes,
not as regular as I used to, but
that's because you got your calendar all booked up.
I know.
Oh yeah. And when I'm on the job all the time, then it's time to hire another person.
Yeah, that's good. These are good problems to have.
Art spends a lot of his time though, and I think it's an important part of the time where you see me, Chris, I know, out at a lot of the events and meetings and things like that, just kind of creating that network. And then when people call us, they're calling our cell phones, right? Art's cell phone, mine, but when they're calling him, they're scheduling walkthroughs, and just those initial walkthroughs and the consultations that we do are so important. And I think that's really where there's value, because he's looking at the overall picture of what they're dealing with, how much stuff do they have, what are their biggest challenges, and kind of coming up with the solution and walking them through that, holding their hands, and just kind of easy, because that's the most stressful part, is when someone knows that they're moving and they're like, where do I start? And so Art will come in and just being able to look at that from a project management standpoint and just really ease people's mind by saying, hey, this is where we're going to start. We're going to start here. This is plan 1, and then we're going to move to steps 2 and 3. And so that's such an important part that I think people, I guess, don't realize, is just that initial talk and easing people's mind and taking that burden off of them from being like, oh, like that paralysis of.
Yeah, I think oftentimes that's what happens is when we're under a lot of stress and pressure, we used to know it as fight or flight. Now we know it as fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I have a friend who lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains during the CZU fire complex, and his house was in harm's way, and he had a couple of cars and some personal property that needed to be taken off of the hill before. And luckily his property wasn't in the fire zone, but was very close. And I called him the first time and I said, what do you need? And he said, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And so okay, well, I said, you call me when you know what you need. And I hung up, and I waited about 10 minutes, and I went, no, that's not good enough. So I called him back and I said, I'm coming down. Ryan's coming with me. We're going to drive a couple of your cars off the property. What else can I bring you? And he was like, oh man, that would be so helpful. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
he didn't know what he needed until you stepped in. What a good friend you are.
But like when you're in that moment where there's this traumatic experience, you've lost a loved one, you've now had to make a decision about leaving the home, to what you said earlier, you've been in for 30 or 40 years, and you're going to move into an assisted living facility. And now you have to decide, of all the things in my house, what's the most important thing that I can take with me? What do I need? Mm-hmm. What can I have? And so that has to be extremely challenging.
Yeah, most of the time people only move a couple times in their life. Obviously some more than others, but when they've been in the house 30, 40 years, when's the last time you moved?
Dude,
you probably...
When Robin and I moved into this house 20 years ago, this is not an exaggeration. We could literally put everything we owned in the center of our 2-car garage and walk around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you move in.
I have no idea where all this stuff came from.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. You move in with the basics, and then you keep adding and adding. 30 years later,
where did it all come from?
Yeah. And then you're downsizing to 1/4 of your house, so to speak. Yeah. It's a very challenging process, and being through it, so many moves and talking to so many people, I could at least help them ease the stress and give them a plan on where to start.
How many years now have you been doing it?
This will be 6 or 7 years, but I used to work at this place, and I used to be the manager, so I've had a lot of years of counseling employees, and it's very similar. I call it mental massaging.
I love how you just put that, because there is a little bit of massaging that has to go on,
Absolutely. You got to feel out the situation, use the right verbiage, give them a plan. Sometimes people just need to be told what to do, or at least lay out a plan so they could follow it.
Yeah, leadership comes in different types and sizes and styles, right? So, and you have to make sure that what you're using for one person, you have to recognize may not work for the next person. And just because you're signing a check doesn't mean that you don't have to get them on your side. Like there is some coaching, there is some cajoling, there is some convincing, because they have a point of view too. And by the way, that's part of the power of being a leader, is being able to recognize, like, that person's sharper on that than I am. I'm going to let them do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and sometimes I meet with customers 4 or 5 times. We just moved somebody, and she wanted to do all the work, which is great. So I went there 4 or maybe 5 times to double check her work, give her more ideas, tell her where to stack stuff, how to pack certain things, where to get supplies. So I was, if she wants to do the work, I'll definitely help somebody understand what to do.
So that's an interesting approach. So, you're a full service organization, but part of that full service organization is also being responsive to your customers' needs too, right? So recognizing that some people want a turnkey, like, I don't care, figure it out, let me know when you're done. And others are like, you're not touching my heirlooms.
Yeah.
My grandmother's china is off limits to you. I'll pack that. Tell me what I need.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's called custom, because we do tailor to you. Yeah. Whether it's big, small, you want to do it, we'll help you understand how to do it, what supplies to get, where to get them. You want to do the work, it's going to save you money, but it's going to cost you time. So it's just a matter of what
it's one or the other, right? Like that's always the challenge. Like, okay, great, you want to do it, like, how much is your time worth?
Yeah,
absolutely. In the business that you're in, I can only imagine there's a good story or two. Now, without indicting someone, and telling anything that would be inappropriate, what's a good story? What's something that's happened in the 6 or 7 years that you've had custom moving and hauling that sticks out in your mind, like, oh my God, remember when?
Well, I think it needs to be a little more specific. I got stories for days. A sad one, a nasty clean out. Just there's a lot of,
let's talk about that a little bit. When you say custom moving and hauling, you're moving residential, you're moving commercial as well.
a few commercial accounts, yes.
Okay.
Not many, more residential and a lot of move into senior communities.
Yeah. So it seems like when I look at your calendar of events, and by the way, like I'm blown away because I wondered why it was going to take so long to get on your calendar. And all I had to do was go to your website to see, like, you're booked out. You're booked out to, hold on, let me just make sure I see this correctly, because if I looked at it like I thought I did, aren't you like out into August or something like that?
I think what's up on our website is through July right now.
Yeah, through the end of July. Yeah. Our wedding anniversary is the 26th.
Oh.
So, and it's mostly workshops.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to places like, help me, because I should know, it's right on the tip of my tongue and I can't think of it. The senior living complex that's there in Orinda. Or is it Lafayette?
I go to places like Sunrise. Well, we're based in Danville, so we do Sunrise here. Walnut Creek sometimes will be Atria. I've got quite a few up there, and a lot of senior communities, not just the senior living homes, right? The assisted living places, but also
55 and older kind of environments.
Yeah. So that way it's kind of catching people when they're starting to think about it. Think about, okay, this is pending. I know this is coming. My kids have moved out of the area, or, maybe my partner or my spouse isn't doing so good, and I kind of need to know what my next steps might be. And so it's kind of being proactive, folks that are thinking about, okay, how am I going to start going through my things, and who can help me do this? How can I surround myself with a network of people to help through this process? So that's kind of where I'm at on that back end, I guess you could say, of, like I said, people who are kind of either on the fence or knowing that this is coming. And so I always tell them, you're being awesome and being proactive about this. And from there, it just kind of, they'll call once they're ready, and that's kind of where art takes over.
So I see operations and I see marketing is how you kind of organize yourself. Yeah. So Art, you've got ops, and Andriana, you got marketing. This seems like a glove in hand fit. How long did it take you to crack the code? Because I would imagine that's a real specific muscle that you got to develop with those kinds of clients. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not so much a crack at code. It's always trying to figure out the code. Yeah. It's a lifelong. It's a week in, week out, monthly, always looking forward to the next opportunity, the next event, the next idea, to be prepared. So when we get there, I heard a saying a long time ago, what got you there won't keep you there. So if you plan for the future, when you get there, you know how to prepare for it. And then you can keep looking forward in the future and try to plan it. So keep evolving, so to speak.
Totally. Robin and I used to play a lot of pool, and we never shot for the shot that we were aiming for. We always shot for the next shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's like, if you continue to stay ahead, my son's now a big chess player. So now he's like Tetris. He's 6 or 8 moves ahead of us all the time, because he has to think like that. Right. Yeah. So, this business, real estate, and then whether you're a real estate agent or you're an affiliate like we are, it is continuously changing. And if you are not paying attention and you are not engaged, it will absolutely leave you behind.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the name of the game, is just being able to evolve and to change with those type of situations. And I mean, I'm sure, like you do, Chris, that everybody that we speak to is kind of going through their own personal, unique situation. And it's about learning about those experiences, of course, us adapting our services, but then also on my end is taking those challenges that I see people facing or new ones and communicating them through these workshops, because you never know who you're going to touch, who might be also going through that. And if we can help them on that end, again, on the kind of a back end proactive side, it just is a better experience for them. It makes it a little easier, whether it's easier on them or it makes it easier maybe on their adult children or their loved ones surrounding them.
Yeah, can we peel away a layer or two there? Because I think it's really, like, you touched on something really important, and that is your audience, right? So you've created these seminars or these things that you've done out of thin air. Have you used a template from somewhere along the line? Is it a lot of trial and error? And that didn't work, let's try this next time. I know you're a deep thinker and I know you're highly organized, so I'm sure there's a lot of you in it, but did you have something to start with, or did you just make the stuff up out of thin air?
I mean, I don't know if you could say I made it up out of thin air. It's a lot of listening to the way that Art talks to clients and listening to the solutions that he's providing, kind of seeing the end results and seeing how can I communicate that in a way that lays it out for people to understand what the process looks like. So I think that's a lot of where the overwhelming part comes from, is because people, maybe they haven't moved in 40 years or, they just don't really remember what that process looks like. And then add on top of that, the emotional aspect of it, if they've lost a loved one, maybe they're moving out of an area to somewhere that they're not familiar. So they're dealing with a lot of outside stresses. Yeah. And so taking those challenges that I see and presenting it in a way that can make it a little more familiar. Because I think if you can make it familiar and let people know what they're walking into, it gives them a sense of control.
Yeah.
And so I've just been I've been doing this a couple of years now, the workshops, it's just been adding to it, adding different stories of people that we worked with recently, letting the audience engage. But a lot of it is really on what does the overall downsizing process look like, decluttering for downsizing, or maybe you're just kind of decluttering because maybe down the way you might be thinking about a move. And so kind of just tying all those ends together. And so I don't know that there's really a formula for it, but I always try to include folks who are helping in that process also to, I don't want to be the only person up there talking. So I usually like to have industry partners kind of explain how they fit in and what their experiences are.
Yeah, let's talk about, like, so you have to bring a few different people to the table, right? Besides yourself at times, much in the same way a realtor brings other, like, their list of affiliates to the table. Does Custom Moving and Hauling have a list of affiliates that they operate with?
Yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, obviously a lot of times we're working with real estate agents.
Yeah.
We're working
beyond the realtor, though. Like, for example, one of the sessions that you have coming up here in June is, are my heirlooms valuable? Mm-hmm. So are you partnering with somebody who's like a pawnbroker, or who has the
he owns an auction house.
Okay.
So he has decades of experience. Mm-hmm. So bring him up, partner with him to give people ideas of heirloom worth or whatnot. So yeah,
he'll look at porcelain or jewelry or art or those kinds of things that might be in the building.
Right, because that's usually, and I think realtors and maybe even affiliates see that too, is that a lot of times people during the process of moving and downsizing, they're like, well, gosh, this is worth something. It's got to be worth something, right? Because I paid $10,000 for it 20 years ago.
Right.
And so it's unfortunately not always, it doesn't always translate to today's demand per se. And so I know that realtors really, they struggle with that because, in order to get things going, they got to get rid of their stuff, or they got to get it packed away or figure out where it's going. And so working with people like Derek at Clark's, he will be able to tell them as a second, or as a secondary, or professional opinion outside of.
And so somebody who doesn't have anything invested in,
yeah.
Like, look, there's always an agenda, right? So, your agenda is to help get someone transition to something smaller or to something different. My agenda is to get someone into a home loan so they can buy something. A realtor wants to sell or help a buyer buy a house. Having someone who's quote unquote neutral is a good thing.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So we kind of make them the bad guy, right? And so
or the good guy.
Or the good guy.
Exactly.
If it's actually worth something. So letting the other professional do their job, and like I said, kind of tying all those ends together so that we're all working together. And so that experience is a professional experience.
Yeah. So who comes to your sessions? Are they are they the folks that are moving? Is it the family? Who are the folks that are in the room for you? Are they other affiliates? Are they other realtors?
It is typically the actual clients themselves, or the individuals or the families, husband and wife, who come to the seminars, or sometimes it's their adult children who are coming because they're like, gosh, I know mom needs help and I need to know how to approach her. Or maybe they want to learn what the process is so that they can go home and better explain it to their loved one. And it gives them the tools to be able to do that.
Yeah. I'm a lender. And so I would imagine that some of the conversations you have involve mortgage lenders that do reverse mortgages. Is that part of what you do as well? Are you introducing those kinds of people to your potential clients as well?
Yeah, because sometimes, maybe they go through all of this thought process and looking at the big picture of, do I stay? Do I move? And sometimes it just comes down to, it doesn't make sense for them to move, and it makes better sense for someone to age in place. And so at that point, they're looking at what are their options to, finance where they're living, maybe be able to live maybe an elevated lifestyle that they're currently living, or maybe they want to have updates to their home. They say, okay, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be here for a while. And so
I'm going to upgrade a few things to
make
it more comfortable for myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have an aging father who's actually like going like 10 men. So like he's zero interest in moving into any kind of assisted living or any kind of senior living environment. Like he's good. So several years ago, we got him into a reverse mortgage when my mom was still with us. And, it was a really good fit for them. It allowed them to have a couple of bucks to lean back on, and it let them stay in their home and do it in a much more comfortable fashion. So being a solutions provider, if you will, right? Being a problem solver.
Right. Yeah. Because the whole goal is for someone to, age the way that they want to, how they want to.
Well, we're going to be, look, all three of us are going to be there someday, right? So and you're going to have these, I know I'm going to have these conversations with my kids, not looking forward to it. Thankfully, it's way off in the distance,
way off.
Many years.
Way off. Those conversations are hard.
Yeah.
They're not easy. And so, what do you do to recharge?
Vacation.
We were talking about that earlier, Art, about what's next on the list. So vacation, what are you thinking? Where are you thinking next?
Where are we thinking next?
Well, I think a lot of places.
Yeah, got it.
Very long list,
we're thinking about.
So I won't call you out because we're on camera and we're being recorded. But Art and I had a conversation about this earlier. We're absolutely on the same page. Let's experience a few things.
Yeah, even if it's a day trip, overnight trip, weekend trip, anytime we can get away, we're trying to do it.
Yeah, and do you?
We do. And I think it's kind of nice because it ties into what I'm always preaching at my workshop, is that especially with people's things, right? The things that they have in their home and their clutter and, all of this excessive items, is at the end of the day, we can't take any of this with us. The only thing we can take with us is, our experiences that we've had, the people that we've loved, and those things is really the only thing that we can take. And so we try to live up to that as much as we can.
Yeah. Well, I do see you go off and do really cool things with your kids and your family. And I think that's really, at the end of the day, like, this is why we do it, right? Like, we don't work to, the family is there. That's the primary thing, but that's not why we go to work, right? Like we work to support a lifestyle so we can be there for one another, but the work is the work.
Yeah. I go to work because she tells me to work.
I would say, when we met, Andriana, a couple of years ago, we were working together with Women's Council of Realtors in Alameda County. you brought something really different to the table, something that I hadn't seen before. And Art and I have talked about that in your absence. You are a hardworking human being. You don't appear to know quit. Where did you get that from?
Where did I don't know. I think that's just something for me, is that I always want to be of service and to help. And Art and I both, I think we love what we do and we work a lot, but it's because it's really rewarding, and that we see, we don't want to see people struggling. And I know for me, that's always been, I just want to help people through difficult times, and for people to move on and go about their lives. And I don't know, it's just something maybe I was born that way.
You both seem to be living in your purpose.
Yeah.
Do I have that wrong?
Yeah, but she's a little more crazy though, because me on a Sunday night, I might relax and watch a show, or if there's a game.
Yeah.
She's doing chores and projects at 6 p.m. on a Sunday night. So
Andriana,
there might be a little bit something wrong.
Yeah,
but
shut it down. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it doesn't shut off.
I think it'll always be like that. I'm a very busy body. And if I'm not doing work and I'm not figuring out how to help people, I'm creative. Like my background is art and design. So like, I'm always like looking at the different color of paints, or how can I arrange my decor and artwork. To me, that's fun. And that's kind of how I recharge and how I re-energize myself for the work.
And every week I come home, the art is a little bit different. The plants are rearranged. So it's always a new look in our house. That's for sure.
Yeah. See, and he gets to reap all the benefits.
Never a dull moment.
I love it. That's
the only thing that stays put is the couch.
Maybe it's maybe she's trying to keep you on your toes, Art.
Yeah. Well, as long as the couch and the TV are in place, we're okay.
We already touched on a little bit, but I want to circle back. What are some of the bigger challenges for you as business owners? Is it the clients? Is it the staff? Is it the schedule? Is it the finances? Is it the marketing? And what are the things that are more challenging for you in the business?
I think it depends on who you ask.
Right? Yeah. I don't know if, I think everything is a challenge, but I think that we prepare mentally, as well as all of our, like the scheduling app works well. The communication with the guys can, always improve. So it's constantly evolving and looking on ways to plan ahead. So I think with that, it's not so stressful. Mm-hmm. I do get a little stressed out once in a blue moon, once in a while, when my guys don't have hours. So we always think, how can we get them more hours? Mm-hmm. And then a lot of hours, then we figure out, is it time to hire somebody? Mm-hmm. So we always talk about, and I think about stuff like that to prepare for the future. But she, on the marketing side, she's always gung-ho on how do we get more clients? Should we go after or target this audience or that audience or whatnot? And so we keep evolving in that way, going to different networking meetings, different.
And so primary focus for you, client base, is going to be residential real estate, folks that are selling, folks that are looking to right size.
Yes, that's a huge focus, but estate planning, people that do probates.
Okay.
Those are meetings that we're targeting nowadays.
So do you have I'm always curious, because like I have an estate planner that I talk to. If I see somebody has a trust that maybe isn't exactly what they need today, or they've never had one, they need to get one going. I have an accountant that I refer people to for tax preparation purposes. Mm-hmm. I have a financial planner that I can refer to, people to, so that if they're looking to get their financial house in order. I would say again, is it trust attorneys? Who are those people that you refer out?
Yeah, so like estate planners, we work a lot with fiduciaries, which are folks who are taking legal responsibility for individuals who don't have family. Yep. Anybody kind of helping with the aging in place, whether that be someone like you, Chris, or grab bars, things like that, home safety. Also placement, someone who is doing senior living placements, or someone who understands the different senior living communities and retirement communities. We work with them quite a bit. Am I forgetting anybody?
Yeah, there's a large pool of people that could use our services.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't name names because I promised I wouldn't, but there's a retirement community that's up. I think they're in Walnut Creek area. And it's a really tight-knit community. I actually had looked at getting involved with them as a lender, and I met an agent, a real estate agent, who does quite a bit of business in this particular community. And like, if you're not in, you're not in.
Yeah, I am.
It's about who you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I, on the one hand, because of the way that community is organized, and the way that they structure the way that it's maintained, I understand why they want to be very careful about who they ask into their world, if you will, because look, we have a very specific way of operating, and we want the people that we engage with to understand that, and then also be committed to it. Like, we don't want a hit and run guy. We don't want a hit and run gal. We want people that know what we're doing, know what we're about, understand, the intricacies and the nuances of what our clientele need, so that we can confidently say, come work with this person because they understand what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of working with that type of industry specifically, or that community you're talking about, is just being persistent. I can't say that, we're in all of the communities, in the tight-knit communities like that, but I think over time it has paid off for us to be persistent in our space and to just show up and to be there, almost like, oh, you guys are here again. Like,
again.
They see our commitment and our dedication to what we do and who our clients are and to our professionals within that same industry. And it does pay off over time, but it hasn't happened overnight. I mean, it's something we've really been working at. It's been a lot of grit.
Look, I testimonial here for me. Like, I've been an active member of the Realtors Marketing Committee here in the local market for going on 5 years. And it's taken me up almost this entire time to get reliable referrals out of that room.
Yeah, most of the time it's we work with a lot of people, and it keeps extending. And sometimes when it extends to a certain branch, that person knows someone at a certain place that maybe get called. Yeah, exactly. So it's just about being consistent and helping everybody we can. And the more contacts that we are involved with in moves and conversations, then
so the more I learn about your business today, the more I would say it's very similar to any other real estate related business, that it's really about the referral.
And we do not advertise at all, period.
Yeah, so same. I work for the number 2 in private and independent mortgage bank in the country. Most people don't know who they are. Why? Because they're not buying that brand. That brand is strong, by the way. That brand is brilliantly strong. But when it comes to the market that I'm in, they're buying me, just like they're buying you.
Yeah.
You guys had a rebrand, and I was like, wait, I love that jingle. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to have impacted your business, and maybe it's actually helped because it's better described.
It's impacted in a positive way.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's described your business much better, and it's allowed you to elevate your business into some communities that maybe you wouldn't have had access to.
Absolutely.
I don't know. You tell me.
Yep.
Yeah, I think before, it kind of pigeonholed us, and I think now, all of the words combined, custom, moving, hauling, it's pretty straightforward. I think there's no guessing about like, oh, what is that company? I mean,
sometimes people still ask us, what do we do? I was like,
not as much. Yeah.
I am not surprised, because like my cards say mortgage banker or loan consultant, and I can't tell you how many times I've had someone say, hey, can you help me finance a car?
Wow.
Well, it does say banker, so can you?
I know a guy.
Yeah. You know
I
a
know
guy.
a guy.
Yeah, I think in this business too, that's why it's also just so important to give those, world-class experiences and be reliable and dependable, because in this business, it's a small world. I mean, the Bay Area, things get around, and we want to always put our best foot forward.
Yeah, look, you and I both, we all three work in the same markets more or less. So I'll call out the communities and I'll let you connect the dots. Danville, San Ramon is not the same as Dublin, Pleasanton. Nope. Dublin and Pleasanton is not the same as Castro Valley, Hayward, San Lorenzo, San Leandro.
Right.
And by the way, they're separated in distance by what? 15 miles?
Yeah.
Yeah, at most.
They're so completely different. And then when you get into each one of those communities, you have the players that have been there for 25 and 30 years, and it's very niche and it's very insular. And so you have to give, to your point, that world-class experience, because that person's going to refer you to the next person, to the next person. And that's what keeps us from having to buy Facebook ads, right, Instagram ads, radio spots, right? I can do a lot better. I can get a lot further by taking really, really good care of my clients so that they become spokespeople for me.
Exactly. Yeah, because you never know where your next referral comes from. Sometimes we've gotten the most surprising referrals sometimes where I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. But it's because they see who we are and how we work. And
your consistency, like that was one of the things I heard a minute ago, where I think that's really, that to me is a very important thing, because that consistency that you speak of results in the experience that your clients have. Mm-hmm. That consistency results in you showing up every day and people knowing that you're reliable. Art, you were going to say something.
Oh, I was going to say, I always, at my last corporate job, they taught me a lot of things. And one thing they used to say is, act like you would if no one's looking. And I think
good advice.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good sayings I learned from that job. And that's one of them.
Yeah.
And, we just act honest.
Yeah, we have the line in our house is, character is defined by doing what you know is right when no one's looking.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just I figure if you're honest, straightforward, and you just care, that's the basis of who we are. There's a lot of other things, but if you just start there and do what's right, act like nobody's looking, and always do the right thing.
Yep.
You're gonna do the right thing.
Yep, absolutely. And it's going to result. It's going to, that integrity, that consistency, those things make all the difference in building a business for the long term. And I like, in my mind, we're having this conversation 5 years from now, and I'm going to bet that like maybe some of the use cases have changed, but the approach will be the same.
Yeah, but the only difference is we'll be doing this interview when we're in Italy or something like that, or Rome.
Hey, don't threaten me with a good time. That sounds great to me. I'd love it. Look, and it wouldn't be the first time that I've had an afternoon coffee with somebody from this business in a far off place. So like, I would absolutely welcome that.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, we're right there at the top of the hour, damn close. I love where we left it there, because I like you as human beings. And I really respect what you do. And I look forward to your continued success. As I said 10 times already during this conversation, I'm a fan.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.